While you might not have completely moved on from standard notes, it does seem like you've moved on from the
That's cool, man. Like, people are getting super nerdy on Notion.
photos are very personal because I think they contain.
I have forgotten how hard it is to build products from the ground up. Building products is still hard, super hard. It is.
Let's do something very different, which is let's play a quick one-word game.
Wow, that's really good.
Oh, you spent the last 7 years building a privacy-friendly company, and building a company in itself is hard, let alone a privacy-friendly one. And I'm sure you've gained a lot of wisdom and perhaps a few gray hairs in the last decade. So I want to know, what are the best lessons you've learned like during this period in terms of engineering, marketing, and entrepreneurship in general?
Oh, man. This is such a... It's crazy to me that, you would think that after 7 years or 8 years, or since 2016, that I'd be filled with startup lessons and things to not... Well, I could probably tell you a bunch of things not to do. Maybe we'll talk about that. But yeah, second time around entrepreneurship is the exact same as the first. Just like, no idea what I'm doing, no idea what the product needs to look like, no idea what the revenue model should look like, no idea how I'm going to get users, no idea how I'm going to grow, no idea if any of this is going to work. It's not like you come around the second time and you've solved startups. If you could just solve startups, then everyone would just make, every person who's done one startup would make 10, but it doesn't work like that. Second time founders, third time. I mean, it gets rarer and rarer the more you go up because each problem space is difficult. Each time era is different. And, if I try to do the same tricks or growth tricks that I did in 2016, they wouldn't really work today. I mean, the primary growth mechanism for Standard Notes in 2016 was like Medium articles, like writing articles on Medium, which no one knows what Medium is anymore. And so no one reads anymore. Who's going to read a blog post today? So what I would do is I would write articles on privacy, encryption, stuff happening like, with Evernote and things, privacy policies, things like that. And I'd submit them to Hacker News. And sometimes they'd get picked up and sometimes they won't. And so that was a huge acquisition strategy for me. But I can't do that today. I can't. For many reasons. One is, of course, that blogging just looks completely different today. It's not the same world where people are reading Medium articles. People have much lower attention spans. Two is, I've forgotten how to write. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I just can't write anymore. I mean, not that I haven't tried. I've just lost a spark for blogging. Maybe it'll come back when it needs to. For now, there's been no reason to blog. There's been nothing to say. So yeah, I mean, the other thing that I did, which probably will always work well, is genuine engagement with the community. And that's what I did, commenting on Reddit, Hacker News, Twitter, and somehow finding a way to plug my product. Obviously, it's far harder now because the tolerance for self-promotion is just lower and lower every year. And so, because so many people are building products now, so everyone is probably leaving some kind of self-promotional comment. So it's got to be more and more genuine where, if I was doing it today, it's got to be so genuine that you don't even mention your product. You just have to work so hard to integrate yourself into the community that people start knowing who you are and then finding your product. And so that's going to be hard to do. I don't know. So I don't know what I'm going to do this time around. And it's not a great marketing plan. I mean, I think developers are notorious for always wanting to solve every problem with code, and because they just love coding. I'm not enjoying coding this time around. I could say this much. I am not having a good time coding. I mean, like it's passable, but it's not like before where I just wanted to code all day. So I'm saying this is a good thing. It's good that I'm not enjoying coding as much because now I can do maybe business stuff, businessman stuff, serious suit and tie work, marketing, whatever that is, and figuring out how to grow a product without the crutch of I don't know, easy blog posting. So yeah, I mean, I it's hard for me. I'll tell you, I could probably tell you after this product, a couple years from now, I could actually give you some wisdom, because any wisdom that I've gained from the first product may have just been luck. I don't know. I mean, so it's until I can reproduce it, it's all just like essentially luck. And probably for a lot of successful startups, a lot of them will admit luck was a huge factor. So I don't know. I mean, in terms of, I was talking to a friend yesterday just about my inability to really tweet. Like I'm trying to tweet because it just seems like something an entrepreneur should do 2025. But I don't know, man. It requires a certain type of personality, which I don't seem to have. I don't know what it is. It's like a sense of shamelessness, a sense of the opposite of humility, let's say, not necessarily arrogance, but just you're not always trying to be humble and self-deprecating. Like everything that works in real life doesn't work on Twitter. It's weird to me. Like in real life, humility is really good. If you go meet someone, you want to be humble, you want to be self-deprecating. But on Twitter, it doesn't, it's just a weird world that I have not been able to adapt to. And so yeah, I was telling my friend, and, he's essentially, his remark was essentially like, it's probably that at this age for me, the things that would be novel for a 20-year-old on their first entrepreneurial journey have just become so normal to me that I don't think they're novel anymore. So I could, so I can say the things that I do that come easy to me that I don't think are special, that maybe not a lot of people, first timers would know. But the obvious things are, one is to obviously simplicity. And this is such common advice, but even I find myself breaking it for Conquer. I just spent like the last week undoing all this crazy complex work I did because I was like, you need to simplify the product. You don't need all these features. I try to solve every single problem for every single company of every single size, but I'm like, you know what? Just solve the small business use case. Let me focus on 5 to 10 companies, 5 to 10 people companies. So the main thing, the only piece of startup advice that is ever universal, that will probably never stop being true, is that you need to niche down and you need to pick a small audience and you need to speak to them directly. You cannot go after a broad audience or you will fail. You cannot say, even me, I can't go and say, this is a Slack killer. This is going to replace Slack. Whether you're 50,000 people, whether you're 5 people, Conquer is for you. That's a failing product strategy. And it's such a tempting, because when you're doing it, when you're optimizing for the 50,000 person use case, you think you're doing something really smart. And so you feel a sense of reward, and it tricks you, because you're like, well, wait a minute. How can this be wrong? How can me optimizing for 50,000 person companies in my product experience, in my UX, how can that be a bad thing? And so it's such an easy mistake to make. And it's a bad thing because, one is, probably the worst reason is that because now your product is having to cater to 50,000 people, you've increased the complexity for 5 people teams who don't want to bother with all the settings gears and the infinite customizability. And so, and really the only people that will try a new product are going to be small teams. They're not going to be Apple with 100,000 employees on Slack. They're not going to use Conquer for another 10, 20 years or something like that. And so that's why it's such a failing strategy. It may jeopardize your entire business if you don't start really small. And it's very unnatural. It is very unnatural. And that's why the mistake is so easily made. It's so natural to think that, well, if I could solve the problem for everyone, isn't that better than just solving it for a small subset? If you can overcome that, you will likely succeed in your startup space, because when it's time to niche down, if you struggle to niche down, it means your product just isn't the right product. It means that you don't really have a product. You don't really have a solution. And so it's the number one way to tell yourself, show yourself if your product will succeed or not, is if you're able to niche down. And if you can't, find a way that you can. And so that's what we're doing. We're starting with developers. So we're aiming for a technical audience. So our domain switched. We were conquerwork.com before. That was, you can tell it's very abstract. It's very grand. It's for, come everyone, come one, come all. And now we're switching to conquer.dev. And yes, it's scary. If a non-dev sees that, they're not going to use the product just by virtue of the domain name. So yes, it's scary, but I think it's the right move. Because while you may deter the general population, the devs who see that become double interested because you're focused on them. And so for me, my interest is not making a $1 billion company. I just want some, just a lifestyle business back to what Standard Notes should have been for me. Was something, I really wish Standard Notes was something that I could have just done for the rest of my life as a very small thing, like an old man just like tilling his farms, and like that's what I wanted Standard Notes to be for me. But so many things, so many factors went into it, and so I don't know if that's what Conquer will be, but that's the dream, right? Just like something you could just work on for the rest of your life and not have to constantly go back into entrepreneurship. That's the sort of, I would say, the only piece of advice if you're building a new product is stay away from everyone. Find a very small group of people and.
Got it. Right. So, so far in some sense, it seems like while you might not have completely moved on from Standard Notes, it does seem like you've moved on from the idea of note-taking, and that you can maybe look back at this space of note-taking with less of a bias. And under that assumption, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on products like Obsidian and like slightly simpler products like Notes-Note.
Man, Obsidian and Notion are two products which I just don't get. I mean, they're not for me, obviously. I think they're great pieces of software. So nothing against the craftsmanship, which is seemingly excellent for both of them. But just the use case, I don't get it. Like, for the thing about me is, look, I built Standard Notes because that's who I am. I'm like, I just want something that just works, that's simple, that gets out of my way. I don't need complex organizational systems. I don't need a node map. I don't need backlinking. I just want a list, and I want it fast. I want it protected. I want it secure. And that's me. That's still me, and that will always be me, seemingly, if I trend this pattern. And so I don't get Obsidian, and I don't get Notion. Now, Obsidian in particular, look, it's a VS Code for your notes, and it stores the notes in a folder. Now, what surprises me is that there are people who want to store their notes in a folder, and there are a lot of people seemingly who not only want to put their notes in a folder, but they want to be responsible for syncing it and backing it up. I didn't think there would be that many people who would want that. I would have thought that most people would want what Standard Notes does, which is seamless cloud syncing with backups. So not to say, look, Notion is obviously like 100 times or maybe 1,000 times bigger than both Obsidian and Standard Notes. And that does the cloud model. So it's not like the cloud model is dead or something, but it just surprises me that there is a market for local folders. For me, I want something much simpler, and I imagine a lot of users want something much simpler. And so I don't know. To me, I'm also not an academic type. I'm not like I'm not like a student type of person where I take copious notes, or if I read a book, I will not lift a finger to highlight or take a note or something. Whereas some people will just like write a book length of notes on every book they read. They'll take notes on movies, and I've never taken notes in a meeting. Now, this is not a brag. It's. I got called out on this once in one of my jobs, in like a decade ago. It was like the CEO at the meeting, or just like listening, nodding, and I was listening. I didn't remember what he said. He's like, "Are you not writing anything down?" I was like, "No." I was like, "I want you to write this down." All right. So yeah, I don't know. But yet, for every one of me, there's going to be the type of person that is a really good sort of, I don't know what it is. They're very, likes to keep things very neat, likes to write things down, likes to write everything down. But you see it here and there now that people have organization fatigue. People are writing posts on Hacker News saying, "I'm done with Obsidian," not because Obsidian sucks, but because Obsidian is so like addicting to them that they spend so much time organizing their notes and very little time acting on the notes or just working or doing the thing that you're supposed to be. You take notes because you want to be better at your job, or you want to, do better on your exams or something. And so, yeah, a lot of people are starting to find out that they spent more time just tidying their office than just doing the work. I mean, look, if you're motivated, you can work, and I'm speaking literally, you're not even metaphorically. Some people do, like, if you ever have a lazy day, you just start cleaning your office, and you're like, it's like, oh, I need everything to be clean. But when you're really motivated, you can be living in a little dumpster fire, and you will do the work that you need to do. And so for me, I've just always been the type of person that just, I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And if I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to sit here pretending that some tool is going to change that for me. I'll just, I'll take a day off or something. But once it's time to do it, just do it. I mean, there's no trick. It's hard work. It's discipline. So that's Obsidian. Note Snook, I honestly don't know anything about it. So I can't really speak to it. And then Notion, the same thing as Obsidian. It's like, I don't get how. I mean, people are getting super nerdy on Notion. I don't know what you guys are doing on there, man. Like what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's powerful, but the fact that it could just do everything. I mean, Kanban boards. I mean, it replaces almost everything. So there's maybe something there. Maybe I'm not the target audience. I'm a developer, not a product manager. Maybe it's better. So I don't know. And this is a problem with me. I'm so unsophisticated with my software that it's hard for me to build something that isn't like really simple stuff. And so I could never think to build something like, I don't know, Obsidian or Notion. I would always build standard notes. I would, even with Concur, it is going to be the standard notes of team communications. Because I am so unsophisticated with it's a tool. Like, use it and then go back to work. It's not the work. The tool is not the job. With Slack, people feel productive on Slack. That's not good. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen this. I mean, Ente is smaller than, let's say, a larger company that may have a lot of politics or something, but you find that a lot of people have found the trick that if you're really active on Slack, it looks like you're working. And if you're not active on Slack, it looks like you're not working. When it couldn't be further from the truth, the opposite. I struggled with that in my time and I say Proton only because that's the biggest company I've worked for, the only company I've worked for in recent memory. I struggled with that aspect where I'm not a very extroverted person. I'm not sitting here memeing around on Slack all day. I'm not sitting here sharing updates. If you don't hear from me, I'm working. And so that doesn't play well, though, in larger companies. You have to publicize your work in larger companies, or it looks like you're not doing anything at all. And yeah, that was really tricky. And so, people have synthesized that and found, well, wait a minute, I can just be really active on Slack and make it look like I'm working. And it works. There's no known remedy to this problem because, I don't know. So yes, Slack is sort of like Notion and Obsidian in that sense, where people spend so much time in the tool that we forget that it was meant to be a tool to help you do your job, not become the job. And this is my simple philosophy. It's crazy that it's somewhat contradictory to the grain, I guess. I mean, that's wild to me because it's so obvious to me. And so, yeah, any product I make will just be unsophisticated, for better or for worse. So, yeah.
Got it. The bit that you said about Slack is interesting because I recently went to a friend's place wherein he was chilling around, but at the same time he was kind of just moving his mouse pointer once in a while just so that he would say green on Slack. Right? And that seems to make his manager happy and like. Anyway, so I'll come back to I'll come back to Obsidian, right? Do you think Obsidian is open washing? Because every time I tell an Obsidian user that Obsidian is not open source, they're like very surprised. And Obsidian is not open source, but a lot of people seem to think they are. And like, what do you think
about the perception that they paint, or like?
So I haven't been able to understand why people think it's open source in the first place. And all I can see is that there is a releases repo which seems to have like 12,000 stars. And for some reason, they've given off the vibe, or people have received the vibe that Obsidian is fully open source.
Yeah, you know what?
And I just don't understand the dynamics of this.
Yeah, I had that vibe too. I think it's so for a couple of reasons. One is that developers almost expect every software they use to be open source, and usually, like VS Code is open source. Cursor's not open source, but VS Code is open. And Obsidian kind of looks like VS Code in a sense. It feels like it essentially is VS Code for your notes. Not that they use I don't know actually if they use VS Code technology or it's a fork or something. But yeah, that coupled with the fact that it's like local vibes, it's like it gives off ownership vibes because of your text files, and so people sort of equate that with open source. So I don't think they've ever painted that they're open source. And I don't know. We can go into open source as a philosophy. I have a lot of thoughts here, but I don't want to go on a tangent. So,
So interesting you said about Cursor, right? I was just checking. So Cursor has a GitHub repo with 31,000 stars, and all it has is a README file. So make of that what you will. But yeah, cool. Like actually, so
yeah,
right.
Nobody really cares about open.
I'll go on. Sorry.
Like, okay, yes, I'm not. It's not an absolute statement that no one cares, but most consumers don't really care if you're open source or not. And it depends on the product category. So if you're dealing with end-to-end encryption, personally, me as a user, I don't care if your license allows me to redistribute your product. Why should anyone be able to redistribute anyone's product? I don't understand. I really don't. Like open source MIT license says that you can take my product and you could resell it. Why is that a noble thing that all open source or developers should aspire to? That just makes no sense to me. And look, the open source response to this would say, well, look, you don't have to use open source. If you don't get it, you don't have to use us. You can license your code with whatever you want. And that's fine. But I just don't get why it is a noble thing that you allow your product to be resold. I think I think it may have just been a different time where, I think open source, when we say specifically open source, maybe not a lot of people understand that when we say open source, it's a very specific set of licensees. It doesn't just mean that your code is visible to the public. It means that you are giving rights to anyone to modify and redistribute your program, and you can resell it. You can put the other company that made it out of business if you're well capitalized enough. I mean, that's essentially what happened with WordPress and WP Engine. The whole drama there is that, seemingly WP Engine is just making more money than WordPress on their own product because WordPress is, I think, MIT licensed. And yeah, it hurts, man. It really hurts. I mean, imagine someone takes Ente and they have $1 billion to spend on marketing and they put you out of business from your own product. Like, where is the nobility in that? Where is this sense of I did the right thing in that? It's not there. Like, the right thing is to protect the work that you do so that you're able to live off it and support your team off of it and not let the billion-dollar company come in and essentially steal the work for free. Now, so again, I think if you want open source license, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. But this idea that open source is like this noble thing that all companies should have, I think is just, it is a bit ridiculous. I think that, so for Concur, it will be public source. I'm leaning towards what MongoDB uses, which is SSPL, which is essentially like AGPL, where with AGPL, if you make a modification to the software, you have to open source the software. There's a server-side component in there, but essentially, if you modify the software, you have to make it open source. With SSPL, I don't get it fully, but in a sense that if you have infrastructure around the hosting of your software, you have to open source the infrastructure that supports it. Essentially, that would have saved WordPress from the WP engine problem, and I think that's why Mongo chose it. But so it'll be something like that where, look, if you're a small individual, if you're a company of like 3 people, 5 people, go ahead. Self-host it for free. I don't care. Like, yeah, I encourage that. I want you to do that. I want the small people to self-host the software. But I don't want Google to use this for free. Like, that could support and feed like 50 families if just Google paid a very small bill. And so what, they just get it for free? And so it just doesn't sit well with me. And so, yeah, I don't think that open source needs to be this really laudable thing. I think it's like, should just be like, okay, cool, open source, just a license, just like any other. So no, that's a small tangent. No, sorry.
Got it. So I'll actually follow up on that, right? Like, I would like to know how you think of licenses in the current scheme of things, wherein there is agentic AI, and like you can just point at a repo and say that, hey, like clone this or rewrite this in a different language. At which point the moat is just marketing.
And that's the really scary thing with open source now is that you do have the MIT license, it's so trivial for someone to fork you now and just make a slight modification and just, in practice, it's, I don't know, the actor would have to be super motivated, financially motivated. And so, to this day, no one has forked standard notes and tried to make money off of it. But, that's because note-taking is a small industry. If, for example, Concur starts really competing with Slack some number of decades down the line and it's making billions of dollars, then there's a huge incentive for you to just fork it and offer it for a little bit cheaper than us or something like that. And so, now on the other hand, you may say, well, look, with AI, code doesn't even matter anymore. I don't even have to fork your code. I can just prompt your code. But we both know that's just not true. I don't know. Are you a developer or are you just okay? So
yes,
yeah, that.
Although a sense of judgment there, though, are you just I don't know what the blank was, but
yeah,
but no, I'm very much a programmer. Yeah,
seems like both. So. As well as I do that AI, you can't just one-shot a whole application. It's just not going to happen. I mean, I use AI every day for coding, and it's just a tool. It's the amount of work I have to do has not went down. I'm still putting in as many hours as I can every day. There's still not enough hours in the day. I'm still not as productive as I want to be. And yeah, AI is helping me big time, but it's still a job, and it will always be a job. I don't know. I can't imagine that changing. I mean, GPT-5 was supposed to be, Sama was really hyping up on Twitter how GPT-5, he posted a tweet, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, posted a tweet saying, we are soon going to enter the fast fashion era of SaaS. And fast fashion is a reference to like Zara, where, they replace their entire clothing lineup like every month or every week or something. It's like fast fashion. I don't know, some kind of operational efficiency there. But he's saying we're entering into the era of fast fashion for SaaS. Now, when I saw that, I was like, shit, am I gonna have a business? Am I gonna have a job in a year? And I was kind of bummed out. I was really sad. I was really scared. I'm like, because if companies can now just prompt to make their own internal Slack, then my product is not needed. Slack is not needed. And so it was with a huge breath of relief that when GPT-5 came out, everyone sighed a huge breath of relief. Like, okay, yeah. What are you, drunk, Sam? Like, it's not like, it's still a job. It's building products is still hard, super hard. It is, man, I have forgotten how hard it is to build products from the ground up. If I had known this, I probably would have stayed at Proton for a little bit longer. It is hard, man. It is just like never ending. Like you look at something like Standard Notes and you're like, this is simple. I could do this in a week. Oh my God. No, you cannot. Like it's so deceptive how much goes into this stuff. And so, yeah, I'm working nonstop here and it's just not finishing. I'm not getting any closer to the finish line. And so in a sense, I'm relieved that I don't think I don't think companies are going to pivot towards internal software, internal Slack, building your own Slack. Every company builds their own Slack alternative. I don't think that's going to happen. It is super hard. So yeah, I think we're safe.
Is there anything that scares you about AI, like in terms of this long-term implications?
There's nothing scary about AI. I mean, yeah, it's a great tool. I think, I wonder. I don't know. It's crazy to me that. So I'm maybe 2 months into development of Conquer, and I look at what I have, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty good progress. And I use AI a lot to help. Use it carefully. I'm not vibe coding. Like it's very careful development of these features. And I wondered to myself, where would I be if AI wasn't here? Would I be further? Would I be the same? Would I be way back? And I really, like, despite how much AI and LLMs have helped with the coding volume, I still think I would be at the same place if I'd done it myself, which I don't know. I don't know how that works. But, when I look at what I have, I'm like, I could have done this in the same amount of time normally. So I don't know. It's weird, man. I think that, yes, there's a lot of efficiency gains in various places, but there's some slowdowns. And I think it seems to balance out. And you sometimes, depending on how you're lucky you get at the slot machine, I mean, it's becoming more consistent. With GPT-5 high, it's really, really good. Less likely to, scribble across your code base. But you still need to be careful. Yeah, it's just really good. And so, but nonetheless, it's a tool. It's a tool. It's made me more productive, but the bars went up. You're expected to ship better quality software now. And then, so I don't know. Nothing scary about it. I think everyone has their jobs. If anything, you still need someone to supervise this thing. No one trusts these things to ship code to production.
Mm-hmm.
No one will ever trust these things. I don't want to say ever, but it seems like no one, until the point where we can trust this thing to ship straight to production, developers will always have a job. And even then, you still need someone to review the code. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a common saying that the bottleneck with AI coding is the review. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any real cause for even job loss or, I think it just, it's like, did calculators put accountants out of business? No, it just made them have a much better time. They spent less time doing manual calculations and more time doing other things. If anything, it increased the size of the industry. I've never studied the impact of the calculator, but I can imagine that it enabled more rather than less. And so I think that's exactly what will happen here.
Right. Cool. Let's do something very different, which is let's play a quick one-word game of sorts just to change the vibe. Right. I'll throw out a word and you've got to give me the first word that comes to your mind. Right. Without any filters. Cool.
Well, yeah, it's your risk, man, not mine. So.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Right. Like, wait. So, give me one word to describe Google.
Oh man, you're telling me not to filter. Look, can I say a word and then elaborate?
No, just a word.
Google. Oh man. Yeah. Okay. Like, okay is one word. I mean, cool. What have hostile?
Got it. Next. Right. Apple. Apple.
Extortion.
Twitter.
Twitter or X?
Yeah, I mean X, I guess.
X. Addicting.
And now Twitter.
Twitter was cringe, I would say, or unfair.
Okay. Venture capital.
The capital. Fine. I don't know. I don't have experience there, so
Okay. Sam Altman.
Raspy.
Okay. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. First word. Oh man, that. I mean, I would say impressive. Yeah, like jump on
Ente.
Ente. I'm gonna say impressive too. I mean, because you shared. I think you shared how many, like 300 million photos recently. I was like, yeah, that's really good. That's impressive. So,
Thanks. Cool. Okay, so now we go back to the older vibe, right? See, some fraction of our discussion so far was revolving around mental health, and you mentioned some stuff that you were doing to just take care of your physical health. And so yeah, so one thing is I wanted to know what are some things that you actually consciously do to ensure sanity, like at least like while you're not employed, like while you're actually working on your own thing, where when you wake up, you have to set your own to-dos, right? And on that note, like if you were to look back at the last 10 years, like what was the happiest and like saddest days?
Well, honestly, everything that I do that is not work makes me feel bad because I always have this pressure to work, and if you're not pushing forward, there's going to be this guilt that you have. But then at the same time, if you're always working, obviously you risk your health. And so, yeah, I mean, in your 20s, you can get away with working nonstop, not caring about anything. But I guess at this age, not that I felt the transition, but you start noticing that it's like, okay, I can't really sit here for that long anymore. And so, I don't know. I mean, one thing that's just always been invaluable is just taking walks. That's been something I've been doing since the beginning of my career. And anytime I needed to solve a creative problem or a product problem or an engineering problem, you take a walk and you think it all through and you come up with really good solutions. Beyond that, I mean, mental health is relative. I mean, for me, I'm most happy when I am productive and working and overworking. I mean, I would love to put in a 12-hour day if my body would let me, but it just doesn't let me. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that if you are motivated enough, then nothing really brings you happiness except work. And that is the entrepreneur's curse too, is that we don't know how to have a good time. I'm learning. I've learned to have a better time now, taking up golfing. Yeah, because the only thing that gives us joy is progress. And, commits and numbers and MRR and things like that. So, yeah, it's an addiction. It's an addiction to progress and software shipping and yeah. So I don't know. I don't think I'm the best person to really give good tips on mental health or physical health. I'm working on. I'm finding things out. I'll let you know soon enough. That's for the happiest and saddest times. I mean, I will probably say, in retrospect, obviously, in the moment, you never know how truly happy you are. It's only when you look back, you're like, man, those were some good times. But probably the best time was when Standard Notes was really starting to take off. I was just one person. And, you go from $0 MRR, and all of a sudden, people start paying, and you're like, I still don't understand how that started happening, where you go from zero one night to all of a sudden, like, tens of thousands a month. And I'm like, you don't really see it happening. It's just like, you're just in it all of a sudden. And yeah, the best position I was ever in was when Standard Notes was maybe making close to $500,000 a year, and I was still one person, no employees, $3,000, maybe $2,000 AWS bill, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. I did, but yeah, that's the ideal sort of like scenario where your costs are low and your income is good. And unfortunately, what happened from there was I started hiring people, and that's a whole other subject on running a business is when to hire, whether you should hire. But and the saddest time, too many to count, honestly. I mean, life is hard, right? It's hard. So every it's ups and downs. It's how we can sense. I guess it's how we know what good times are is when we have bad times. And so yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, for sure, that time I mentioned when I had when I realized I should have sold to Proton, and I was sort of devastated. I was sick, and the revenue, the false email thing, that was a really tough time. But honestly, in retrospect, so in that moment when I wanted to remember how that day felt, so I recorded myself talking. I was outside in the forest where I usually take a walk, and I was just like, and I just watched it the other day, and yeah, it was, man, I've been through some horrible like surgery and medical issues, and in that video I say this feels worse than all those medical scenarios and injuries that I had. So that was rough. But when I look back, honestly, if Andy had never answered my email, I would have been fine. It would have been fine. The company would have been fine. The numbers would have went up slowly but surely. You would have had a profitable business. You would have had some really good cash flow. And so there's a part of me that says, oh, I wonder what would have happened if he didn't answer. And to that person then, that's all I wanted. To me now, I'm like, it would have been fine, and you shouldn't have been so overreactive. And so that's one thing I've learned now, is that whenever I feel that way, that I was like, oh my God, I had that one chance, I just say, nah, it's fine. Like, one way or the other, we're never happy with I'm never happy with any decision I make. Like, it's equivalent to stock trading, where you always sell too low. It's never a perfect time. There's never the right scenario. That's what life has been for me after the age of 30. It's like no decision has ever been like really great. It's always been like, oh, okay, I probably should have done this, or I probably should have done that. But it's all the same. It's all really the same. I mean, I don't know. You gotta just like go with what you did. I mean, trust your past self to have made the decision that was right for that past self. Even though looking back, you're like, I probably should have done it differently. That's unfair. It's unfair to your past self.
Right. Got it. So, this will be my last question before we wrap up the conversation. And so you've built and sold and moved on from a company that is making privacy accessible. And I think your perspective will actually help a lot of people who are listening. Like, so what advice would you give to people who are hanging out in privacy communities and just using privacy-friendly products and like just evangelizing and helping push the world more in that direction, which they believe is right?
Oh man, you chose the wrong guest to have.
I'm starting to get a feeling that you've become very disillusioned with the notion of privacy.
So again, security first, but I would say that the way that I did privacy, I got burnt out from. And I think a lot of people do get burnt out from privacy. So what I will say is don't burn yourself out. Be a productive member of the online society. Do not look, if you don't want to, don't. But it's okay to have your face on an avatar. You don't need to be some anonymous shrouded figure. Choose what you want to protect. Choose what you want to put in the vault. And I can only speak to people who are similar to me because, that's just who I am, who may have business ambitions or career ambitions, or you want to become a well-known blogger or a well-known speaker or something like that. There are some goals where privacy will hinder you if you overdo it, and I overdid it. And so I would rather focus on a definition of security, where, yes, photos are sensitive and they're important and you should protect them. Some emails are sensitive and important. And for those, use Proton if you want, or use Proton for everything. I mean, it's a really good product, but not everything needs to be super secretive. Like if you go to ChatGPT and the ChatGPT knows your daughter's name and age, I don't know. I'm sure someone watching this can come up with a scenario where that could backfire on me. But if anything, it's led to a more delightful experience with ChatGPT, and she sometimes brings up her name, and then it's a little creepy. I mean, but
it's interesting that you refer to ChatGPT as she, right? Yeah, you said she sometimes brings up her name.
Weird. I've been lit shot and So yeah, I would say choose your privacy model. Don't overdo it. Choose, focus on security over privacy. Security is hardcore things that are measurable, like end-to-end encryption. But otherwise, if you're on X, that's a public place. It's like being in a grocery store. Don't go to the grocery store with a hoodie and sunglasses and like a bag of clothes. You're just going to outcast yourself. And it's the same thing online. If you show up in a hoodie and sunglasses, you might disenfranchise yourself. You might connect with the privacy community. So maybe I should do that if you want to participate in the privacy community. But otherwise, if you have other ambitions and goals, then make sure that your privacy model, correlates with that.
Got it. Great practical advice. Right. So, and there's all the questions that I had. So thank you, Mo. Thanks for your time, and thank you for all that you've done, all the stuff that you've written, both code and words, both, because it's in general a delight to talk to you and to read the stuff that you've written. So for those who are watching, please check out Mo's work at mo.xyz, and I'll link that in the description. And if you guys like the standard that he set for notes, you might like the standard that we are setting for photos at ente.io. And yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.
Thank you.